This is Bookmarks with Richard Gadds.
Hello again, Richard Gadds here. I'm back in my kitchen in Keynsham. With me today is Sylvia Bishop, who's the author of many children's books, the latest of which is On Silver Tides. Thank you for being here, Sylvia.
Thank you for having me and for the cup of tea. It's delicious.
First of all, tell us about the Bristol Writing Collective, because you're a big cheese in that.
Yes. First of all, I should say that the name Bristol Writing Group was taken, and I couldn't think of a word I liked more than collective. But all we are is a group of writers getting together to get writing done. So my entire admin process for getting it set up was to go around town with a load of flyers and post on a load of WhatsApp groups saying I will be writing at 2:30 in the canteen, it was then, every day.
Wow.
Come and write with me. And people did. And more excitingly, people said I'd like to write in the evenings or in the mornings and set up their own sessions.
Yeah.
So now we run 2 mornings, 2 afternoons, 3 evenings. And that's really the whole concept.
Wow.
I also try and keep track on the website of other bookish things happening in Bristol and have a sort of standing notice that if people would like to set up anything else, like a reading group or a social or whatever, then I'm all ears.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant, because there's such a community of writers, artists, musicians all over this region, aren't there?
Yeah, no, it turns out.
So it turns out, yes.
Yeah.
It's a self-perpetuating thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But so I haven't actually been along to one of your sessions myself, but I may well do in the future. I must admit, I'm one of those writers that I'm very secretive about what I'm doing, and I hate people reading stuff before it's finished. I think those writers who can sort of stand up and read a bit in front of their peers and have it critiqued, I would terrify the life out of me. I couldn't do that.
I'm very similar, and I think often the options for meeting other writers are to join a critique group.
Yeah.
And that's great if that's something you need and that works for you, but I actually find it quite disorienting to have sort of a random feedback. Sounds like too negative a word, but sort of people's just spur of the response reactions from a whole range of different people who may or may not be the kind of people who'd have liked that book, sort of as I go along. Can sort of unravel my sense of what I was trying to do. And I like to finish that before I start soliciting feedback on it. Part of the idea was I wanted something that didn't involve that element, but still got other writers together. But the main thing was to deal with the kind of what I think of as the worst side of writing, which some people think of as the best, which is that it's isolated and unstructured. And I don't deal very well with that. I love to write, but I hate that lifestyle. So I run an online group called Writers with Faces every morning over Zoom. And then this in the afternoons.
Well, it always amazes me how different everybody's writing process is.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, standing up and reading unfinished stuff, really, because I think if I got good feedback, I'd think, oh, well, I'd still think, am I going in the right direction?
Yeah.
If I got bad feedback, I want to tear it all up.
Right.
And then I'd think, oh no, what have I done? I've denied the world a great classic. But, I don't think I could cope with the reaction.
And I just feel, I'm still finishing something. I'm spinning a lot of plates in terms of, each page needs to work in its own right, but is also doing things for the overall shape of the thing.
Yeah.
And there's bits that I know don't work yet, and I'm going to come back to them, and it's sort of a very iterative process.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine at what point, halfway through that, I'd be like, here's 2 pages. What do you think?
It's sort of raw. I mean, they are all your babies, and it's you don't want sort of people looking at the scans beforehand. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I have a couple of people who I know are sort of on the same page as me, who if there's a section where I have a specific question, they're sort of real godsends to have those people. I think. But I think I feel similarly to you, and also about being asked how it's going or sort of what it's about. I'm like,
no, I don't answer those questions at all. It's like the terrible question: how are sales going?
Yeah.
Don't ask. Just don't ask.
For that, I mostly say that it feels a bit like when people ask. I imagine I don't have any children, but how your child is doing after they've left home.
Yes.
Well, if they called me, I would know. But actually, my bit is sort of. My more intense involvement is done, right? And I don't get as much news as I'd like.
Right.
So, mystery.
Well, tell us all about On Silver Tides.
It sounds dangerously like the question, what's it about? But I can answer it because it's finished.
Well,
so
yes,
when it's done, you know.
It's out there and you can't change it anymore. So
now I know what it's about.
Yeah.
On Silver Tides it's a younger teen fantasy book, which is an interesting market. We can talk more about that later. It's set in 1904 Britain, with the conceit that there is a secretive community living on our waterways, perhaps still there, who appear to just be people living on houseboats, but they are amphibious. And it's kind of their culture. They call themselves Silvermen, and they keep themselves very separate from landmen and have their own way of living. Our hero's little sister, our hero is Kelda, her little sister Isla can't breathe underwater. She should have been sent away from the boat at least at birth. If she's kept any longer, the punishments get more severe, but they didn't do it. So the beginning of the story is things are starting to worsen on the waterways. It's referred to as the river's sickening. And that's kind of where I get to use loads of British water mythology that already exists. So all these things are kind of on the rise. So there is a slightly paranoid atmosphere, a search for someone to blame. And in that context, dangerous things happen to Isla's secret, and you realise she might be going to be revealed. So it's the story of their escape to Scotland, which is a very mythical land for these people because the waterways cease to be navigable in the UK after a certain point until you get up to the Caledonian Canal, when you get navigable again. And that's Loch Ness and all the other lochs. So that sort of features in their myths and legends, but isn't part of their habitual nomadic lifestyle. So it's a journey up from the Southern Rivers up to Loch Ness, and that is the book.
Wow. What was the research like? Because it's not a subject I know anything about.
Yeah, I'd love to say the research was magical and wonderful and a lovely time.
I can sense a but coming along in that sentence.
A combination of non-fiction about boats and non-fiction about rivers it turns out quite ironically a dry world. Fascinating to now know it. And I do think it's amazing how little we know about our own rivers and what a separate world they are. And I think that's what I've always felt about them, and that kind of inspired the book, is when you are on a river or even alongside one, it feels like this very separate, secret world. They'll often run through an otherwise quite isolated part of the country. You know, they come through our towns, but then they go on their own way. And might be quite sheltered, and so they feel like their own thing. And as soon as you start researching them, you're like, oh yeah, I know nothing about about the wildlife, the ecology, the differences between the different rivers. Trying to find a map of them is bafflingly difficult. I ended up paying a special sort of digital geographical service, and even then it's not entirely complete. I found an error, and that's partly because they change course, and some of them are winterborn, so they're only there some of the time. So that's confusing, especially if you're trying to find out what would have been there.
Yes,
part of 100.
It's interesting, isn't it? How there are still gaps. You kind of assume that sort of only 150 years, 200 years ago, we've got everything. But there are significant gaps here and there. Aren't there?
We were pretty complete with the canal building. Because that was a slightly earlier enthusiasm. So in the end, I didn't find I had to make many modifications for. The book being older, but that took a while to establish, right? That was tricky. It's also just that if you showed every waterway on a map, the map needs to be huge. We have loads of them. And what really struck me about the map I bought in the end, which you could sort of zoom in and it's very fancy, was when you zoom right out, just how riddled with waterways the UK is. So it is very hard to represent them all on a map.
Did that influence when you set it because of that? The changes over the...
Mostly changes in water quality. Because I'm glad that it is a book that brushes against sort of river health and talks about it. But it wasn't I already had a plot in my head. And it was very hard to find a decade when the entire preoccupation of this amphibious community wouldn't have been the quality of the water, right? And in the 1800s, I'd been dealing with sewage. And then in the 1900s, still some sewage and aquifers, and then very quickly pesticides. So it was like there was actually this very brief, slight resurgence in the health of the rivers around the turn of the century.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much why I chose that time period.
Difficult to set it today.
Yeah, you could. That, I mean, if these people are real, they're not having a good time right now.
Gosh, I see a very grim sequel.
yeah.
You know, 2 generations longer.
Yeah.
Are there parallels in that story to things today? Because
yeah, I think, you know, I never set out with a sort of social analogy in mind, but there is one. It's interesting. I don't think it's specifically an environmental crisis book so much as a sort of communities in times of scarcity, which an environmental crisis will cause.
Yeah.
So I can, there's very much in there all the pre-existing thoughts I have about how scapegoating happens and how people behave in times of crisis. And, you know, it's not a book with villains who are just villainous. It's a book full of scared, ignorant people.
Yeah.
Or some not so ignorant, some with highly overdeveloped theories. It's a mix. And I think my background is politics, so that just came through.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an intention.
Yeah, because so often these themes just turn up unexpectedly. I find that a lot. You know, somebody says, it's a book about... is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, I don't think people quite believe us when we say that we didn't set out to write about X, Y, Z, but that's what we've ended up doing.
Yeah.
So,
A friend of mine over lockdown, actually, because we've been having long chats about how we were doing, and it's like, I've been having a think about the kinds of things you worry about, and also all your books, and they are all about very anxious children who are worried they've upset an authority figure.
it's cathartic, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you get it all out of your system.
Yeah.
Was there something in particular that drew you to that genre?
This is when I discovered reading, was this age and this genre, really. Diana Wynne Jones was my big doorway into loving reading, and I wrote to her and said, can I be an author? And she wrote back and sort of said, if you like. no, she was very nice, very encouraging. So I think this was always, this is my dream age and genre to be in. I think I broadly think that younger readers have an incredibly vivid experience of reading that fewer adult readers get to have, and I include myself in that. Yeah. And it feels very like special, want for a less saccharine word, to write for that age and that experience.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because it's those years, sort of, 10, 11, 12. When you think back, as adults, so many of the things that influenced you and have had lasting impacts, they all coalesce around that kind of time, don't they? It's sort of between about 9 and 13 seems to be like the very specific time. So have you always wanted to write for children specifically?
I wish I could tell you a story that involved that level of intention on my part. I wanted to be a writer at that age, so at that age I don't think I was considering the kinds of books I might write. I was just enjoying the books I was enjoying then, and so that was the sort of thing I was writing in my notebooks and stuff, I guess. Yeah. And then I kind of forgot that that's what I wanted to do for a bit. I got very serious about saving the world, as all good young people should.
Of course. Well, isn't it lovely that we have a generation now that's very aware of that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't... Sometimes when I recount my own life, it sounds like I'm cynical about that. We should still be trying to save the world. I've just progressed a bit in my understanding of that. But, I went to study politics and then development studies, which is like international development. And sort of didn't read fiction for those 5 years, which is a bit of a confession, but I was reading so much for my studies, it was just sort of the last thing at the end of the day that you wanted to do. But by the end of the development studies masters, I was very unhappy with the academic world and trying to remember other things I'd used to enjoy, and fell to having sort of creative writing sessions with a friend who was working on a book of his, and I was like, oh, I used to love doing that kind of thing. I'll come and have a cup of tea with you, and tried a few different things, and just had this one idea for a story about a girl who got an elephant that I ended up writing mostly when I should have been writing my thesis, and that ended up being my first book. So there was never anything as intentional, I think, as deciding it was going to be children's books.
Yeah.
I have no adult book ideas in my head. I have no particular desire to do it. Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, I was sort of the reverse. I kind of started out intending to write for grown-ups, got sidetracked into writing for children for about 20 odd years.
Yeah.
And now I'm back to plan A.
Yeah. And speculative fiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, which was always, again, this is when it influences you most, when I was sort of 9, 10, if it didn't have a spaceship in it, I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
If it didn't have a spaceship or a monster, I wasn't interested.
Yeah.
Not the book for me.
Have you put spaceships in now?
Well, I haven't actually put spaceships in. No, well, I did in my kids' books, but I haven't tackled grown-up aliens yet. I think perhaps I might. I might need to next time. It's been all vampires and werewolves so far. But,
I mean, also a lot of fun. But
also a lot of fun. Yes. Would you like to read a little bit?
Sure.
For us?
If you will nod at me when to stop.
Okay. I'll just sort of push and shut up now.
I don't know how long a page takes. I've sort of, with the stuff for younger children, I could tell you exactly how many minutes to each paragraph.
Right.
But we will just find out. So this is chapter 1 on Silver Tides. Kelda's sister seemed like a perfectly normal baby until her 7th day, when it was time to throw her in the river. Then they found out she couldn't breathe underwater. It took a moment for everyone to realise. When Kelda's mam emerged with the baby in her arms, the family were all waiting at the side of the boat, and they threw petals and cheered, and Uncle Abe struck up something complicated and twirly on his fiddle. But then she handed the baby up to Kelda's father, and the little body was very still and tinged a strange grey-blue, and everyone stopped cheering. The fiddle carried on, unfurling reels like streamers, because when Uncle Abe was playing, he stopped really paying attention to anything else. Somewhere from an islet to their left, a reed warbler answered him. Normally, Kelda's family were quick to respond to danger. They knew how to fix a boat's engine and bail out and mend a leak. They could handle nymphs and grindelow without breaking a sweat. They knew the cures for every kind of river worm and parasite. But none of them knew anything about drowning. Kelda's mam just shook and wailed. Kelda's father leaned low over the little body, peering through his spectacles and asking mam questions in a low, urgent voice. Kelda's younger brother Firth nudged Uncle Abe, but none of this made the baby any less limp. Kelda had seen a drowning man once. She had been left on the boat to practice knots while the others went silverside as a punishment for cheek, so she was the only one who saw the man get scooped out of the canal. He wasn't limp like the baby. His limbs twitched horribly. One of the women had knelt down in a puddle of skirts, torn off his ridiculous cravat and collar, put her mouth over his, and breathed into him until he revived. She had reminded Kelda of her family, the way she knew just what to do, and set about doing it without any nonsense. The others missed all this, only arriving in time to see them pull away in a motor car, which caused great excitement. But Kelda had dreamed for weeks about the poor landman who had spent too long silverside. Mam let out an especially keening, broken wail, and Kelda suddenly understood that no one else was going to do anything. So she ducked her head under her father's and put her mouth over her sister's, as the woman had done to the drowning man. The baby was so tiny she covered her whole mouth and nose. She breathed out. She only gave a very slight breath. She had been marvelling at the sheer littleness of her sister all week, and instinct told her that those small lungs could not hold too much air at once. 1 tiny breath, 2, 3. The baby was still.
Brilliant, thank you. That's a really good opening sentence.
Thanks. My sister's baby was about 1 week old at the time. And I went to excitedly text her about it, and I was like, But it's all right, I'm that baby's godmother, so I didn't spook her too much.
That's fine. Changing tack slightly, I read on your website that you've been involved in improv stand-up.
Yes, improv comedy, not stand-up comedy,
right.
which is a distinction that the stand-up comedians of the world would like me to uphold.
Oh,
so
right.
on their
Okay.
behalf.
Right. Tell us all about that. That sounds fascinating.
Sure. I should probably start by saying what improv comedy is, although over the time I've done it, it's got bigger and bigger.
I need to know the definition now.
Yeah. It's getting bigger and bigger in the UK, but it's still fairly niche. It is comedy that you are making up based on audience suggestions on the night. It is most famously Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is what we'd call short form. So that's like a series of silly games with constraints, each with a new suggestion, you know.
Right.
But more commonly, if you're seeing live improv, it will be long form, which is where you get suggestions up top, and maybe as you go along, and you make up a whole story off the back of that.
Wow.
So sort of more of a play than a...
Yeah.
It's not like one guy with a microphone, you know.
Yeah.
Normally in a genre in UK improv. This is a big UK-US divide. US improv is its own thing, and everyone knows about it, and there'll be names for all the forms. Like there's something called the Harold, and something called the Armando, and the audience wouldn't know.
Yeah.
They're just sort of instructions to the improvisers about, you know, are you telling one story? Are you telling three? Are you doing sketches? But the genre is always the same. And they will claim there isn't a genre. And I'm like, there is. The genre is American improv. Whereas it's more popular in the UK to be like, we're doing a musical or we're doing a Shakespeare play or whatever it is. So that's what improv is. Yeah. It's loads of fun. I could sort of do a TED Talk for an hour, so I guess I'll hand back over to you for what you'd like to know about it.
Oh, right. It seems to be... It sounds really scary. You know, you must have to think like lightning.
It's scary at first. It is. I terrifyingly started well over 10 years ago. 13 years ago. So it's no longer scary. My stress stream is that I'm in the wings of a show and I realise it's scripted. And that I didn't realise. Because with a scripted show, you can get it wrong. And if you get it wrong, you've ruined the show. Right. Whereas there's typically half a dozen of you on stage for an improv show, and it's everybody's job to make everyone else's ideas look good. So the first thing you teach a beginner improviser is the principle yes and, which means whatever anyone else says is true, and you will add something to it. Right. So... And the best things come out of someone saying something stupid. Yeah. And everyone realising they've said something stupid, but it's true now. And for the rest of the show, it has to be true, right?
So there's a lot of teamwork involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see it when you watch good shows, and it's part of the joy of watching good shows is that you can see you're watching friends supporting each other and delighting each other. And that's weirdly heartwarming to watch. It's like watching people play. So you realise after enough shows that it's quite hard to say something that really breaks the show. Right. It is possible to have a show that just isn't very funny. But you know, you go and have a drink afterwards with your friends and you realise it's not the end of the world. Yeah. So
Wow. So what sort of plots get weaved out of vague suggestions? It's fascinating.
Well, it depends a lot on the genre.
Yeah.
And also on the playing style of the group. Yeah. What would be some useful examples to discuss? I mean, it's heavily shaped by the genre. So I'm in a musical group, and we get people to tell us something interesting that happened in their lives, and we get the whole range in terms of how sincere the stories are. But we know it's a musical, so within the first few scenes, one of the characters will really want something, you know.
Right.
And
making up songs like that, I mean, that's... I'm blowing my mind here.
I think it's easier than people think it is. I should be telling you that yes, it's very terribly impressive. But
you should say just as years of training.
I'm basically Jedi for rhyming. Rhyming's really easy. Loads of words in the English language rhyme. You don't set yourself up for a word that is difficult to rhyme.
Yeah. Yes. Let's say something is orange.
Yeah, big mistake. Although you get a round of applause if you then pull it off. But only if you're feeling quick that night. There's sneaky ones, actually, I would say. I mean, this is just the process of learning to rhyme now, which is a very niche, specific skill. But you do learn to stay away from the ones that don't sound like they should be hard to rhyme, but are. Yeah. So I smile to myself as beginner musical improvisers and align with self, which comes up a lot, right? Like, in a personal song about your feelings.
Right.
And I'm like, well, good luck making a shelf or an elf relevant, because those are your only options.
There's lots of elves turn up in this.
Yeah, far more than... And musicals are a good example of how, you know, the mistakes become fun because things you're sort of forced into saying by the song.
Yeah.
You're like, well, it's a big emotional, passionate song, so I guess I'm committing to whatever I just said in order to hit a rhyme. Yeah. Rhyming is a very niche skill that I could again talk about for hours, so maybe we shouldn't go too far down that road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Sylvia Bishop, it's been an absolute joy talking to you today.
It's been lovely.
And all the very best with the book.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all next time. Toodaloo.
Thank you for having me.
That was Bookmarks with Richard Gads. For more, visit www.richardgads.co.uk.